So what makes the Gospel of Mark so unique? Welcome back to Digging Deeper, where we visit with prominent New Testament scholars on important issues related to the Gospel of Mark. I'm Cosaert, the writer and the host of Reliving Mark, Discovering Jesus in Israel. This is my third part of my four-part interview with Dr. Tom Shepherd, who is a professor of New Testament and an expert in the Gospel of Mark. So Dr. Shepherd, thank you for joining us once again, and let's get to this question. What is it that makes the Gospel of Mark so unique, different from all the other Gospels? And how is this Gospel organized?
All right, so we said that the Gospel of Mark actually has very few verses that are unique to it, that only are found in Mark. So one might think that there's nothing unique about the Gospel of Mark. It really was not the favorite Gospel of the church. That was Matthew. And Mark kind of fell by the wayside until maybe the 1900s when people started to say, wait a minute, we think Mark was written first. Well, Mark does have some unique characteristics. One of the unique characteristics about the Gospel of Mark is it really doesn't use the word Christ very often. It's fairly few times that it appears. The book can be divided into two almost equal halves. Chapters 1 to 8 are consumed with the question, who is Jesus? We find out from his miracles, from what demons say about him, all the things where he goes, what he does, the people he calls. The second half of the gospel is consumed with the question of where he's going. Now, the turning point is in chapter 8, where Jesus says to his disciples, who do people say that I am? And they say, well, John the Baptist, one of the prophets has come back to life, and so on and so on. And then he says, but you, who do you say that I am? And Peter responds, you are the Messiah. Now, interestingly enough, Jesus immediately tells them to be quiet about that. Don't tell anybody. There's actually a good historical reason for that, because if that got out, his ministry could be shortened because of the political characteristics of messiahs and the Romans not wanting popular movements to rise up too much. But on a theological level, there's another important reason in the Gospel of Mark for what's been called the messianic secret. He's always telling people, shh, don't tell, don't tell. That second half of the Gospel, we'll come back to that don't tell part. The second half of the Gospel focuses on the question of where Jesus is going. And from the time when the disciples start to recognize who he is, and they say, you're the Messiah, he immediately begins to teach them where he's going. And where he's going is the cross. This is not popular with them. They did not expect that of their Messiah. They don't want that to happen. They don't understand it. And eventually, as time goes by, they ask him less and less about this idea. The book wraps up in what's called the Passion Narrative, chapter 14, 15, and 16, where exactly what Jesus predicted occurs. He is arrested, he is tried, he is crucified, and he is buried. His disciples flee from him. Judas betrays him. Peter denies him. It looks like such a tragic ending. I mean, the cross in the Gospel of Mark is this very dark place. Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And it's like there's no answer. However, in chapter 16, just like he predicted, he rises from the dead. Now, Mark probably ends in Mark 16, verse 8. This is disputed. There are several different endings of Mark, but most scholars agree that that's the right ending for the Gospel of Mark. It's a very unusual and unique ending to this book. The women come to the tomb in chapter 16 looking for Jesus. He's not there. They meet a young man who seems to know everything about what's happened. He tells them he's risen from the dead and he's going to Galilee, and there you will see him. The women run away and don't say anything to anybody because they're afraid. And that's how the book ends. And it's just like, this is impossible. You can't end the story that way. It would be like going to a symphony orchestra program and, these symphonies, Beethoven, Haydn, Brahms, whatever, you can tell when they're going to end sometimes. A minute before they get there, they make this cadence, dun 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 dun, something like that. Now, if you went to one of these symphonies and the orchestra was playing. It was loud, it was beautiful. Dun, 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 dun. And they stopped. I can imagine somebody in the back of the hall standing up and going, "Stop!" because you just can't end the symphony the wrong way. It would be like reading a story to your child at night and to have fun with them. You don't read the last page. And the child says to you, "No, Daddy, you didn't read the last page. That's not how the story ends." Well, that's exactly what Mark is doing. This messianic secret, the whole thing about discipleship, all comes to a head. Who is Jesus? Where is he going? All comes to a head in this last part where the women are supposed to go and tell, and they don't. So the question is, who's going to tell? All through the book, the reader of the book thinks, "Oh, those foolish disciples, they don't get it. I know who Jesus is because at the very beginning of the book you're told he's the Messiah. I know who Jesus is. Look at them fail and fail and fail." But at the very end of the book, the reader is confronted, caught off guard by this ending, and now the appeal. And the appeal is, you must go and tell. And that's what's very unique about the Gospel of Mark.
Thank you, Dr. Shepard. I invite you to join me for the final part of my conversation with Dr. Shepard on the Gospel of Mark. In that final episode, we'll be looking at why Mark's Gospel follows the Gospel of Matthew in our Bibles when Mark was actually written first. So I hope you can join me for that conversation. Until then, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.